Good afternoon, everyone. Hope you are having amazing TDX. Thank you for joining our session, Architect for Trust. Trust is number one value and foundation of Salesforce Platform. This topic is very close to our heart. We're very grateful for the opportunity to share our insights today. Thank you. I can see a lot of familiar faces. Thank you for choosing our session and spend time with us. My name is Crystal. My co-speaker is Marlene. I will let her introduce herself shortly. I'm Enterprise Architect and the Senior Salesforce Technical Architect. I've been in Salesforce ecosystem over 10 years and hold 30 certifications. My areas of expertise are integration and security. Last year, I had the opportunity to help clients reviewing and auditing their Salesforce orgs. Doing this work, identify is common gaps in security and integration. Today, I'd love to share the real-world insights with you guys in TDX. We have a lot of great content today. Here's today's agenda, including a deep dive into a real-world use case. Then with that, I will hand over to Marlene, lead us to the session. Over to you, Marlene.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Marlene Garrieve. I've been in the ecosystem for 16 years. I'm currently at Hertz as the technical architect, and I lead the platforms team. I'm going to be going through the well-architected framework with you, and then Crystal will go through the real-life use case. So let's talk about the framework. Hopefully, you've heard a lot about it in this TDX. And as you can see, we have the trusted pillar, which has to do with safeguarding your data, privacy, and building and maintaining stakeholder trust. The easy pillar, which has to do with building an application that's easy to adopt and brings value quickly. And adaptable, which is flexible by design and delivers flexibility to the business. I know that the team presented a new structure, so definitely make sure you go to the site and get the latest pillars. Today, we're going to be focused on trusted and looking at applications and how they get access to our systems. Within trusted, we have three principles. The first one is secure. When you're looking at building secure architectures, you want to incorporate security by design. You want to start there, not finish there. You want to make sure you understand how you're giving access to your application and what access can be granted through the data. Compliant architectures respect guardrails. You understand the laws that apply to your industry and where your customer and your company is based. And of course, always behave ethically. Reliable architectures are going to be systems that deliver high availability, are predictable in how they function and how they can be troubleshooted, and they can grow with scale. So what happens if we don't meet trust? We've all heard about situations where orgs have been breached, and the consequences are significant. There are billions of dollars that are at risk through penalties and fines, depending on your breach level. Brands have severe brand loss, and they can lose revenue. Depending on the size of the company, they may even risk bankruptcy because they're not able to absorb the costs. And even if you're a large company, these penalties are not something you want to worry about. So let's talk about each one of the aspects of secure. You want to make sure your system starts with 360 security by design. You want to make sure your system is protected. You understand who has access to it, so it's controlled, and you're able to monitor who's able to access the system. You want to make sure that your system and your data is accessible to the right users at the right time for the right purpose. You don't want to lock your data so much that it's not accessible or make it open wide door policy because that's going to be too risky. You're looking for the right balance in the middle for your applications. So when we're talking about applications in particular, you're going to have the shared responsibility of applying secure principles because you're the ones building the solutions, and Salesforce is giving you the tools to make sure that you stay secure. For your applications, how are you granting authentication? How are they able to connect to your org? What are they able to do in the system through the scopes that they have in authorization? What kind of session securities have you granted to each one of those applications? Are you going to want them to have access to the UI or be API access only? And can you detect if an application has run away and you need to manage that application? We're always going to have sharing and visibility as a basis to make sure what data is being granted to them. When we're looking at licenses for applications, you could give them a full Salesforce license, but that's not cost effective. You can also give them a platform license, an integration license, or Experience Cloud. You're going to see in a little bit for the best practices which one we recommend. When we're looking at the security model, you want to make sure you're treating your applications the same way you treat your users. Your sales users and your case users do not have the same permissions. Your applications and your agents should also have their unique personas. You want to make sure that you're granting a unique set of permissions by building their access through permission sets, permission set groups, org-wide defaults, and sharing roles. The last thing we want to talk about is your API access. Is the application going to have inbound API access to your org, or is it outbound? Whatever you do, you need to make sure you do not hard-code secrets. In the unfortunate event that your org is breached, if you have hard-coded secrets in your org, now you've exposed many other systems. So it's really critical that we safeguard that sensitive information. So let's talk about zero trust best practices. What does zero trust mean? So zero trust means that you start at zero. You're going to be applying the principle of least privilege across all of your access decisions. When you're looking at the user license for your integrations and your agents, you want to grant them an integration user because that is more controlled. You want to make sure that you're architecting that security model and starting with zero access. If they have access to data, are you looking at the master and detailed relationships that gives them extended access, and also lookups as well. When we are doing our connections, you need to make sure you're auditing your connected apps, and now they're called external client apps, to make sure you know how they're accessing your system and that they have the right access for it. You want to implement name credentials. We talked about not hard coding that sensitive information. The name credential is going to give you access to put the endpoint and the sensitive information to reach back out. It's also much easier to manage access if it's all centralized. One of my colleagues is looking at 60 integrations into their org. They don't know where they're coming from. Name credentials would help a great deal. And of course, we want to use without sharing mindfully. If you had the chance to look at the roadmap for Apex security that's coming in the next couple of releases, it's really important you look at your sharing access for your Apex. You want to be very mindful about it and make sure it's very selective. So quick quiz. You have an integration user. It's for an Azure, and they're going to be using the integrated user license. As we said, applications should be using integration user licenses. Which profile should they use? A, system administrator. No? All right. B, minimum access, API-only integration. Great. And then C, minimum access Salesforce. You guys are right. So that is that profile. So Crystal, tell us about that profile.
Thank you, Martin. Thank you, everyone. You guys did a great job. So let's talk about this profile. So this profile has been Salesforce standard since Spring 24. It was built with one philosophy in mind: start with zero. Zero permissions, zero object access, zero trust assumed. From login perspective, it's API access only. System integration user cannot log into Salesforce through the browser. That's intentional. It's security feature, not a limitation. Regarding object access, it's none by default. So you build up the permission is intentionally by assigning the permission size exactly each integration needs. Nothing more, nothing less. Think about is zero trust architecture. Instead of stripping the permission from over permission profile, you start from zero, right? Start from nothing, then add what's necessary. This keeps your integration footprint is tight and auditable. All right, let's actually bring everything together we just covered to life with a real world scenario. You have just joined the frictional company Sentosa Health as Salesforce or a technical architect. First day, first assignment, you handed the existing Health Cloud org, ask for a secure review. Your mission, identify the gaps and recommend improvement, all guided by well architect framework. Okay. Let's take a look. This is the current state. Take a look at this architecture. This Health Cloud org has 6 integration points, 5 inbound, 1 outbound. Handling from patient accounts to provider schedules. All in one integration user responsible for 5 inbound integration. This integration user running on Salesforce license with a profile directly cloned from system administrator. Put yourself in the architect chair. What are the risks? What are anti-patterns? How to ensure this architecture align with Salesforce well-architected framework? Okay, let's take a look together. Here are the anti-patterns actually identified through the lens of well-architected framework. Anti-pattern 1, one user for all integrations. One shared identity means what? Is no accountability and traceability. If those, is the credential are compromised, every integration is at risk. Every integration shared combined access without granular permission. So this violating to principle of this privilege. Let's take a look at anti-pattern 2. Integration user with customer profile clone from system administrator. So this profile is grants org-wide modify all data and view all data. Far exceeds the integration requirement, also validating this privilege. Let's take a look at the anti-pattern 3. Outbound integration credentials stored in the customer metadata type. Storing credentials in metadata type actually exposed in plain text that actually like hard coding, then make accessible to anyone with metadata access. So honestly, these anti-patterns are more common than you would think. I have seen them repeatedly during my reviews last year. So system integration running our Salesforce integration license with system administrator profile. It works until it doesn't. When it feels big. So we know this current architecture does not align with well-architected framework. So as an architect, you must know how to identify these anti-patterns and propose a more secure and trusted solution. Okay, let's take a look together is the advice and the patterns to fix them. So first one, this is the advice for anti-pattern 1. One user per integration. Allocate dedicated API-only user per integration. Each integration has their own identity, clear ownership, and accountability. Now also access exactly scope to that integration. So this will keep your integration footprint secure and auditable, also forced this privilege. How to fix the anti-pattern 2? Here's the advice. Start with integration user license. This comes with API, minimum access API only integration profile built on zero trust philosophy, one license for one profile. So this one, let platform enforce least privilege for you by design. That's the power of choosing the right license from the start. Then assign the dedicated permission set per each integration, scope exactly to the objects and fields each integration needs, nothing more. So this approach actually enforces this privilege, also actually minimize the risk of accidental or malicious bulk data changes. Okay, advice for anti-pattern 3, implement name credential with external credentials to centralize and secure the outbound integration, enhance the security. These patterns actually enforce least privilege, improve the traceability, also strengthen the security. Okay, let's take a look together with a future state approach. So based on the advice we just mentioned, one user per integration. Each integration has their own identity. If something goes wrong, you know where to look. Second, each integration switch to the integration user license. This comes with API-only integration user profile. Actually, we replace over-permissioned profile replaced by the zero trust by design. Then we actually assign the dedicated permission set to each integration, limited to exactly what that integration needs, nothing more. Then for the outbound integration, actually we implement the name credential with external credential to centralize and secure the outbound authentication, then actually enhance the security. So every changes right now align with well-architected framework principle. This village. Then this is the trusted architecture look like. Okay. This is a summary at a glance. So this table compares the current state and future state, highlighting the key changes actually across the user accountability, licenses profiles, and the object user permissions to establish secure and trusted architecture. Future state approach fully embodies zero trust and principle of least privilege. There is no longer org-wide modify all data and view all data access. Then also actually is each integration is exactly scoped to that integration need, nothing more. For example, is view event log file actually is restricted to the Azure Sentinel integration user only. Okay, let's close. We're close to finish line. Let's close with something actually you can take back to your org. Best practice for configuring integration. So a few key points I want to call out. One user per integration. Each integration has their own identity and accountability. Use integration license and API-only integration profile wherever you can. That's enforce least privilege by design. Then define the login IP range at profile level. So log down where your integration user can authenticate from. Then once actually the step often overlooked is assign Salesforce API integration permission set license to that integration user before assigned permission set. If you without this step, you cannot assign the permission set. Of course, you need to extend the integration user access through the permission sets, not on the profile. Finally, test in sandbox first, always. Okay. Here is a questionnaire actually designed by the architect team. Feel free to take a picture, use it to guide your conversations, challenge your existing designs, and ask right questions when you design a secure solution. Okay, finally, let's reflect. Use Salesforce Well Architect framework as your guiding principle and your friend. Adopt zero trust and principle of this privileged man-site across every dimension of your architecture. 360-degree secure coverage, no blind spots. Use questionnaire and checklist on your next org review. Keep yourself honest. Finally, don't wait. Apply these best practices now. Protect your data, strengthen your security, and uphold your trust. Okay. This is the final takeaway. Hope you remember from the session, security is not the feature you add at the end. It's a foundation you architect from the start. You architect for trust. So this is the final takeaway for you guys. So if you don't remember anything else, remember this. That's great. That's the final takeaway. So hope this session, thank you very much for your time. Hope this session has been valuable. Before you go, scan the QR code, share your feedback. Your feedback is our gift. Can help us improve and deliver better session for you. Thank you very much, and hope you enjoy the rest of TDX. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, everyone.